in the pandemic, but we're going to see things get rolling tonight.
We do have star power, though, and let's start with the defending champs. That is the Lakers, and Anthony Davis, officially a free agent now, but he isn't expected to go anywhere. What more can you tell us about this window?
Yeah, I'm told, Kevin, he's going to wait at least through Thanksgiving and before he starts to really engage with the Lakers about what kind of a deal he's going to do. He will be back with them. You know, one option for him is to do a 3-year deal with an opt-out after the second year. That would line him up contractually with LeBron James. They obviously share the same agent, Rich Paul. He'll be back with the Lakers. It's just a matter of how long does he go with his deal out of the gate here.
One fascinating backstory is Gordon Hayward. He declined that $34 million option that final year with the Celtics yesterday.
Gave up a first-round pick to the Knicks in February, played well for them in the bubble. Now he gets a big payday that he had been looking for in the marketplace. His twin brother, Markieff Morris, is still a free agent. He's out there. He finished up with the Lakers last year.
All right. Other big names out there, obviously. Anthony Davis, we'll get to him in a second because he's really not going anywhere. It's just how we're going to do things. But Danilo Gallinari leaving Oklahoma City and going to Atlanta somehow impacts what happens with Gordon Hayward.
Well, that's one team off the board for Hayward, more than likely. But listen, Hayward could still go back to Boston. He could negotiate a new deal with the Celtics. He opted out. He can go back there. You know, there's been sign and trade talks with the Pacers, a number of other teams out there. The Knicks have had interest in Hayward. I think his market is still, it's still fluid, and there's a lot of interest in Hayward. And the sign and trade scenario may be, if he does leave Boston, how it goes.
Do we know what kind of price range he's looking in?
Well, he opted out of $34 million.
Right. That's why I asked.
What Hayward is looking for is a long-term deal. He went to Boston on that 4-year max deal from Utah. And so whether he goes back to Boston on a deal or gets a sign and trade somewhere else where he gets those years and that money back.
All right, I'm looking right now. It's 11:10. How much more stuff can happen tonight?
Oh, I think there'll be a lot. I think the deals are going to keep coming. I think you're seeing a lot of agents in this marketplace taking what's there, not trying to wait out this marketplace. If there's deals on the table, you're seeing them take them and message to all those young players out there: practice shooting the ball. Davis Bertans, $80 million. Joe Harris, $75 million. It pays to be able to make a three.
I was going to say, is that just league-wide change with everybody shooting? We've moved everything out, and now we see 53 points attempts a game, and it's just that simple.
It's the most important skill in the league. And when you're playing with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant in Brooklyn and the kind of attention they draw on defense, Joe Harris is getting a lot of open shots, and that's a guy who's going to make a lot of them.
Now we move back to AD, Anthony Davis, because he's the biggest name out there, and yet he's sort of not really out there because nobody expects him to leave the Lakers. So what's the buy play here?
He's going to return to the Lakers. It's a question of the kind of deal he does, the length of the deal. He's going to spend really
the last 3 years where he kind of looked like himself but couldn't keep it together, and he seemed like he'd go out with another injury. They look at their roster and say, we've got a guy now that's an all-league caliber player in Jason Tatum. We've got a guy that's an all-star caliber player in Jaylen Brown. They've got to figure out what happened in the playoffs with Kemba Walker and why he had such a hard time staying aggressive while those guys were playing well. They've got to figure that out. If they do, they've got enough offense. They've got to get some more size up front so that they can contend on the glass with some of these teams and hope that Tatum and Brown in particular take another step forward. And if they do, Boston is right there in the mix to win the Eastern Conference. There's no doubt about it.
They've been one of the top seeds, if not the favorite by many, coming into the last several seasons and have fallen short each time. Let's see what they're going to do to get over that hump. Legs, RJ, thank you. Kevin, over to you.
Sage, let's stay in the East conversation. Let's bring up the Sixers and the Knicks, and Stephen A. Smith joining us now. We'll get to the Knicks in a moment, but Philly last offseason, they were very busy with deals at the start of free agency. They gave big contracts to Al Horford, Tobias Harris, max deal to Ben Simmons. Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers now leading this team. Horford is gone in that big contract. Do you expect more to be active in free agency here?
Well, first of all, that's his MO. So, of course, I expect him to be active. Secondly, and more importantly, think about what he's doing here. You add Danny Green, you add Terrence Ferguson, you definitely add Seth Curry, who's a Curry. That means he can shoot, okay? So you're trying to surround your big man, Joel Embiid, with shooters, particularly in the event that you end up losing Ben Simmons because you're going after James Harden yourself. I don't know whether that'll happen or not, but I know if I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I certainly do not want to let James Harden go to Brooklyn. Remember, Daryl Morey was mired in a Western Conference for years, teasing about the potential championship squad that he had, but he kept running into a trifecta that he simply couldn't match up against in the Golden State Warriors with the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball in Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, along with Kevin Durant. Now Kevin Durant is in Brooklyn. He's got Kyrie, and he could potentially get Harden. If you're Daryl Morey, you want to make sure you get Harden to pair him with Embiid. You might want to hold on to Ben Simmons, but I doubt Tillman Fertitta and the Rockets will let you. You'll have to give up multiple pieces, picks, and things of that nature. But again, this is Daryl Morey that we're talking about. The man doesn't stand still. He certainly isn't averse to making moves. That has been his history. I don't know if there's anybody in the league that has made more moves than him in the last 12 to 13 years. I think he's like top two in the league in the number of moves. So I think he'll try something. Whether he'll be able to pull it off remains to be seen. But clearly, with what they're doing, they want to surround Joel Embiid with shooters. And I think you know this better than most, Kevin. We love Ben Simmons. He's a star and a stud, but a shooter, he is not.
So surround him with guys that can space the floor and shoot. And meanwhile, let's talk about your Knicks. They shed some deals earlier this week. It's been a very good week in New York. Obi Toppin now coming in. Now the Knicks have $35 million in space. What do you expect to see from Leon Rose?
Well, I think they're going to go after one or two people. They're certainly going to go after Gordon Hayward. They think he fills all the boxes and he's an ideal fit for them. I'm not sure that's true, particularly since they drafted Obi Toppin and he's box office attraction and he can pretty much play that position, even though Gordon Hayward could play the 2 or the 3 as far as I'm concerned, at least on the offensive side of the floor. But I like Fred VanVleet, and I think that even though you're hearing that he'll probably re-sign and stay in Toronto with the Raptors, even though they'll be playing in Tampa at the beginning of the season, I would love to see the New York Knicks get a point guard, somebody who's a threat to score the ball, who's poised, doesn't fold under pressure, can put up points from the perimeter, and has a championship pedigree. That's Fred VanVleet, not Frank Ntilikina, which is a primary reason why Phil Jackson is no longer an executive in the National Basketball Association, because that was his draft pick. And by the way, he passed up on Donovan Mitchell in order to get that dude. Don't get me started. In the end, what it comes down to is I think you need guard play. I think you need elevated guard play. I know the Knicks like Gordon Hayward. Obviously, having $35 million in cap space, it looks like he's the guy they may go after. We don't know what that's going to materialize into. He was competing for a championship. Clearly, that's not going to be the immediate future for the New York Knicks. So I don't know whether he'll resign with Boston, go to Indiana, or go someplace else. But the New York Knicks are definitely in play. So they say. We'll see what happens with that. But I do believe Fred VanVleet should be somebody they consider if he gives any kind of indication that he's willing to consider them, because that little brother can play. He can shoot. He can run a show. He's a threat offensively from that point guard spot. And God knows they don't have